And a pleasant Preakness Day. Welcome to Lone Star Park at Grand Prairie. What a beautiful day it is. It's going to be a little hot today, but that's why we have an air-conditioned building. Beautiful weather. Alongside Rick Lee, morning line maker and track handicapper, I'm Jim Byers. 10 races today. Preakness coming up later. We can watch and wager on that. We'll take a little break in our card right toward the end. Let's go ahead and talk that real quick. You think Mystic Dan takes the second jewel of the Triple Crown, in your opinion?
I'm betting against it.
Right.
If you notice, he never has in his career put two good races back-to-back. I could actually say great races because his Southwest win and his Derby win were tremendous races, but the races after those were disappointing. So I think someone's going to – I'm not sure who exactly, but I think Mystic Dan, unless he can change what has been the rhythm of his PPs, he's probably vulnerable.
And you talk about that, it might even be more applicable when you've got a race like the Preakness 2 weeks after the Derby, which by modern standards is coming back very fast.
And he had a dream trip in there, a brilliant ride. Everybody's acknowledged that from Brian Hernandez. A brilliant ride, gets up in time. It'd be nice, if he wins today. I just as a bettor, I would bet against it.
It would certainly spice up the new Belmont at Saratoga this year because of the construction of Belmont. The Belmont Stakes to be run in upstate New York. That's going to be exciting, but at least it'll be an exciting Belmont in 3 weeks having it up in Saratoga. But it would really be exciting if Mystic Dan could somehow win again. But it's one of those situations like in quarter horse racing where you see horses that blaze a trail in the trials and they're regularly top qualifiers, but they don't like that short window, or they don't like putting good races back-to-back, and so they disappoint in the final.
Yeah, it's very taxing, actually, when you run a peak effort, and then to have to do it in 2 weeks later, it's a tall order.
10 races today. We're fast and firm. Great job again, as we mentioned, by Crockett and the track crew to get the turf ready for yesterday, and the main track was fast despite the rain on Thursday. Texas Breds open the card, 5/8 of a mile. We start very formfully, I think. We got an even money favorite on the board right now in True and Ready. My picks are pretty formful early, but I mix it up a little bit later. We'll see how Rick fares here, or what your opinions are. Non-winners of 2 for $5,000, going a short distance here, 5/8.
Yeah, at least on paper, this is the most likely winner of the 10 races at 7, True and Ready. Started last year at Lone Star Park. Career debut, won by 9 lengths. That's important because that was what we call a layoff situation, and today's in a layoff situation. So he runs well fresh, came back in a stake, narrowly defeated there. Returned in the fall without Lasix and showed good speed and faded twice at a much higher level. Back on Lasix for the first time since those 2 starts as a 2-year-old at Lone Star Park. It looks like he'll probably make a pretty easy lead in here as well. So off the huge drop in class, his love of Lone Star Park, an easy lead, that equals even money or maybe even less.
Yeah, he's the only one I can certainly go with in here. He's dropping to a bargain basement 5,000 level. He was running for, much higher earlier in the year. But so I did a little research, or a little fun, because obviously it's hard for a public handicapper to pick against True and Ready. So I looked up a couple of the others. Take My Money is interesting. He's my second pick. Off since January of 23, so that's a super long layoff. Used to be an Asmussen horse, now a 4-year-old. Shows a couple of decent races in his past. Beat maiden special weights at Remington back in 22. So I'm curious to see how he runs. And then Cibolo Earl. I looked up Earlton, the sire, because I'm not familiar with him. He's 28 years old. There's an old stallion there.
Who do you have as the owner of Take My Money? Is it still the Hellebroats? Or?
No, Bravenik. Daryl Bravenik,
yeah,
Jaime
that's interesting
Castellanos.
Because my early past performances, I thought that might not be right.
Yeah, Corrine and William
they
Hellick
obviously sold the horse, so that's good.
Former Asmussen, now Castellanos.
Right.
Second race. Maiden special weight, fillies. Rick and I like these maiden special weight races. 6.5 furlongs is the distance. We have 8 going in this one.
Yeah. Is it Calle Reina?
Calle Reina.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I say it. Yeah, it's like Queen Street.
Yeah.
Calle Reina.
Well, this 3-year-old filly, as a 2-year-old, didn't show a whole lot on synthetics at Woodbine, and then, for a different trainer, again, ran pretty lackluster, moved to the barn of Carlos Padilla, and shipped here to Lone Star Park this year, and broke last, finished up, with really good energy. I thought that was a really good third-place finish. Hiram Diego takes a return call. Typically, horses run better with a trip over the track, and certainly with a race after a layoff preceding that effort. So it looks to me like, she doesn't have a lot of speed, even in races where she's broke with the field, but I think she's going to be pretty much tough to contain in the stretch. And if you're looking for a long shot, I know we all are, I would go to a horse I didn't pick in my mix, but when I was reviewing for all this, Misty Mood. We all know Kerry Craddock does an awesome job with first-time starters, 27%, a profitable ROI, a nice gate work, 5/8 and 102 flat. She always works her 5/8 in company, so this horse isn't, is used to working alongside other horses. And I just thought if you're going to get a little bit crazy in a race, maiden race especially, perhaps Misty Mood might not be a bad way to go if you want to take a flyer.
Yeah, there's a couple you might take a flyer on. If things are goofy today, even this Geometric number 3, raced at NYRA in New York, 22 and 23, put up a whole lot of beaten performances, but takes the blinkers off. New to Austin Gustafson, has faced a lot of next out winners in New York back when she was over there. She's 5 years old. She's intriguing to me. Mm-hmm. Also, Royal Liaison training very aggressively for J.R. Caldwell. A lot of times you see J.R. not work them so aggressively coming in off a layoff. This is a short layoff, but that's 4 works since April 7th for Royal Liaison. Circa Star, the 7, is a half-sister to Epicenter, one of the top horses of his generation just a couple years ago. But, boy, Circa Star didn't do anything in her debut to indicate that I could play her back. So I'm on Calle Reina as well. One thing about her, she did break out, was bumped at a flawed start last time, and I think made up pretty good ground. It looks like she kind of flattened a little late, but a lot of that has to do with the horses in front of her, digging in a little bit. She passed a bunch of horses, so I like her in this spot.
Yeah, and Equus, that's a huge pace figure. Going 45 and 3 at Houston, understandably faded in her career debut. If she can make an easier lead in 46 and change instead of 45 and change, they may not catch her.
Yeah, and Steve rides his son Eric a lot, who's doing a great job. Gave a horse a great rail skimming ride yesterday, but he's putting Stuart Elliott on Equus, which is sometimes a sign. Mm-hmm. The barn goes to a veteran rider, and still Stuart still rides some of Steve's top horses, even though Eric is getting his share, and deservedly so. On to the 3rd. Texas-bred fillies, first level allowance, 5/8 on the turf. This is a good race, too.
Yeah, it's a good race. The 2 and the 3, Bling It To Me and Cross Claim. Exit, they both ran in the same turf sprint, April 19th here at Lone Star Park. The first 2 races for Bling It To Me, who I did pick, showed terrific early speed on the main track, including a wire-to-wire maiden win in her last start at Houston. Tried turf for the first time and just didn't break as sharply as she did.
She had significant trouble at the start last time, too. Pinched, off a little slow, pinched.
And she made up 4 lengths just in the last furlong. So, to me, that was kind of the tiebreaker. Cross Claim had a start since that race, even though she did finish in front of her. I don't know if I like that she had a start. Sometimes you can over-race, sometimes you can't. That was a route, now back to a sprint. And I thought she might turn the tables on Cross Claim, even though I don't think it's a cinch because there's others in here that are pretty intriguing as well.
Yeah, I had a hard time picking between those 2 as well. Cross Claim, they kept her on the dirt last time when it was a rained-off turf race. They kept her in there. She was fading by the upper stretch, wound up running second, actually dug in reasonably well for second because in the upper stretch she looked like toast. But dug in okay, gets back to a better distance. I don't know if I like the race in between either. I gave her a slight nod, but that's a really tough race. Asmussen's got another one that's intriguing in there in Fast Track. She just won for 14, but I don't know. She's got some speed, and that last race she was in on April 19th with this bunch. Wasn't that great, but, it was her first try at a turf sprint in a while. So
yeah, and Too Much Dreaming was stake placed right here at Lone Star as a juvenile on the main track. Has run 7 times, has been a very hit-and-miss type, but been almost exclusively in stake races, so gets class relief.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on pedigree that she's going to take to the turf course, but, if the price is right, it's always worth a shot if you think she's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few stinkers mixed in there, but they were in stakes company, and some of her races last year were pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth race. These are all older fillies and mares. They're going 7/8 of a mile. Scratch the 5 Art Queen. She'll be in tomorrow. This is a non-winners of 3 claimer.
Yeah, and I like what Kevin Scholl's done with Kolkata. Gets this horse from a mare from Mindy Willis, goes on the main track. This mare's been pretty much exclusively a turf runner, and goes a mile in that nice cushy non-winners of 2 for 7,500. Guts out a nice win. And the second place finisher, who was 4 lengths clear of the third, meaning it was a really nice 2-horse race from that non-2. Mischievous Angel comes back and runs a 58 buyer, meaning she improved off the number, finishing second behind Calcutta.
And kind of blew out that field. She came back and won by 3.5, coming back off that, and ran a good number. So.
Right. So now this is a 7/8 race. That was around 2 turns, but again, forwardly placed routers typically like 7/8 of a mile. So, I'm going to assume that Kevin's got her figured out, and she's not going to be, if she goes favored, it'll be one of those favorites that still, I think, will pay $7, $8. So I'm going to take her right back.
How about It's My Money, too, who I see you're breaking the trend on her. She's run 6 straight seconds. You're picking her third today.
Yeah.
I'm being a conformist, and I'm picking her second. Some of those seconds have been decent, but you just wonder. I mean, because they've been a variety of distances, all on the main track, but some 2 turns, some longer sprints, and just can't seem to get the W.
Yeah, she hasn't won since 2022. Even though her figures are best, she's a model of consistency.
Yeah.
We see this sometimes with maidens that are 0 for 24 with the best figures. Eventually, they find a field they can beat.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if this is the case for her, but
we'll see.
You never know. She's probably going to take some considerable money. She is the favorite on the morning line.
Right.
On to the 5th. All older runners in this one. 5 Ace on the turf. This is a $10,000 claimer. Scratch number 3, Wrestler, and scratch the main track only entrant, the 11 Sunday Bling.
Yeah, this is one of those where we talked on the way down. I picked Billou's Gold. It's not one of them you picked. Okay, good. I know you got some price sources too.
Yeah, I've come a little later on my prices.
Yeah, it's good when we have different priced horses. But Billou's Gold is interesting to me. I mean, last time out at Houston in a turf sprint was beaten less than a length. That was at a much higher, 20,000 optional claiming level. If you go back to the last time he was in a strictly claiming race, which was at Houston 3 starts back, $15,000 claimer. This is a $10,000. And finished second. Also got to like the fact that he's won 2 of 5 on Lone Star Park's turf course. So, to me, that's a strong credential as well. And there looks like there's, plenty of early speed in here. When you go down through the field, most of the runners in here either want to be on the lead or very close to the lead. So Blues Gold, can do as usual, lay back and relax at first quarter, and then, see if he can pick them up down the stretch.
Yeah, that's there is as you might expect in a 5 Ace race, a lot of speedy ones in here. Good Heart is not my top pick, my second pick, but man, he is really fast. He's just had a lot of demanding races lately. The starter allowances at Oaklawn were good, but he raced on the 19th of April, the 4th of May at Hot Springs. Ships here. That's a lot of racing for him. I picked him second behind Jess Chillin, who's had a little bit of a break. This was a great claim by Caldwell. J.R. Caldwell took this horse on the 1st of July last year for $5,000. Since then, has 3 wins, 2 seconds, and a couple of other finishes in there, too, and seems to like turf sprinting, so I'm going to take Caldwell off the layoff. But, there's some old favorites in here, Bling, 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 Super Brady. Yep. There's some horses in here that we've seen a lot and that are pretty hard knockers.
Yeah, they like to win, the horses in that race. That should be a really competitive one.
For sure. Pick 5 starts with race number 6. No changes here. 3/4 of a mile the distance. These are Texas bred, and they are non-winners of 3 in their career.
Yeah, and I picked the one, Texas Prado, 9-2, so another, medium range type of horse. You can look at that 2 for $40 and be like, there's no way on God's green earth I'm betting that horse. But when you look at recent form, you look at how well he's been at Lone Star Park. I mean, he's only won 2 of 40, but he's been in the exact of 4 of 7 at Lone Star, including a win. His last start at Houston was 7/8 of a mile. This is 6 furlongs. He led for a good share of that race, tired a little bit late. The fraction was fast, though, 45-4 going 7 furlongs. So, in my mind, he had, every reason to fade late. Pretty significant drop in class. And, again, last year at Lone Star Park, he cleared that non-winners of 2 condition, by 3 1/2 lengths. So, obviously, he likes this surface. I think the cutback is just what the doctor ordered and should be a fair price.
I'm a little worried because you have 2 straight top picks that I don't even have in my top 4, which worries me a little bit because I think it's great we don't always pick the same horses, but it indicates the race is a bit wide open, and it just makes me wonder if I didn't overlook something. I'm going for a different class dropper, and that is a horse that actually faced Texas Prado in his last race, Silver and Gold. Now, Silver and Gold has run twice. Wait a minute. Is that right? Yeah. Silver and Gold has raced twice since that March 17th race that they were both in. I think Silver and Gold gets a very much needed class relief here. He's been consistently overmatched for a really long time, like the whole length of my PPs that go back 12 races. It seems like he's been screaming for a class drop to 7,500. And some of his races are quite poor, but a few of these races in the higher levels have been acceptable. He's been a big long shot. He tried blinkers last time, didn't run a whole lot, but more peanuts. The filly who won that race against Boys at Houston came back and drubbed a field here of fillies. I'm going to take Silver and Gold in a race that I see is really wide open. My favorite song, to me, is just not super reliable. Second try at this level, he ran okay last time, but I think he's a horse you might try to beat. So
he's the only mildly lightly raced horse. Of all the horses with 2 wins, my favorite song's 13 starts. Everybody else has a minimum of 20, if not 30.
A lot in the 30s, yeah. And my eye gravitates toward more lightly raced non-winners of 3 than the ones that have made a career at it. Race 7. This is a good one, I think. $15,000 condition claimer. Can also be in if you're a non-winner of 4 career-wise. 7/8. Scratch the 1, Union Data. Scratch the 5, Shadow Matter. Scratch the 8, Seize the Treasure.
Yeah, I went with the 9, Burning Hunk of Love on the far outside for trainer Broberg. First of all, this is a 7/8 of a mile distance, kind of what many people think is a specialist distance. 1 for 10,000, condition claiming 10,000 last summer at Lone Star Park at this distance, won by 12. Got really good at Remington, good enough where they ran in the David Vance and ran second. So that obviously a race like that would beat this field today. More recently, this winter at Oaklawn, wins a starter allowance 10, which would be stronger than a 15, claiming race here. Last 2 races, just a little bit of a lackluster performances. Was given time, which seems wise, at least on paper. Comes back, again, in a straight claiming race. It just looks to me like if he runs his best race, he's probably going to be right there. And you have the best of trainer rider teams, too, at the meet.
Yeah. The best thing that might have happened to Broberg regarding this horse was when his claim was voided in April 2nd of 23. Somebody took this horse. He didn't pass the vet on the way back when they examined them after they get claimed. The claim was voided. And since then, he's gone on. He's won a race by a dozen lengths. He's won a couple of others.
Yep.
He's running the David Vance. On his best day, I think he clobbers this field. And he may win today. I'd like to see him, and I'm old school, but I like to see a little more formal work pattern for these horses coming off little breaks. I took an 8-1 morning line, American Code, for Tristan Ashford. Boy, his dad really unveiled a tremendous filly last night in Just a Sip in the last race on the turf. I'm trying to remember that name because she may be ending up in a race in a stake pretty soon. But American Code comes out of a sloppy track effort here where he absolutely got detached from the rest of the field. He fell so far back. Came on reasonably well. Cabrera sticks with him. I just thought perhaps he was a little bit of a 7A specialist as well. Some of his races are good enough. He's only third race off the claim. I'm going to give American Code a chance. Upsetter. Doesn't mind picking up checks. So I'm going to take him in this one. Burning Hunk of Love might be, as you would put it, a layup. But, you know, he is coming off a little bit of a layoff and does have a little bit of a sketchy work pattern.
He does. So I think the scratch of Union Data certainly will help Burning Hunk of Love because it seems like he runs best when he's near the lead, and I don't think he could have kept up with Union Data. So that scratch, really, I just noticing it now on the pace perspective front, but a Union Data scratch certainly will help Burning Hunk of Love, assuming he's doing good after this layoff. That's
true.
That's the question.
I'm going to give that mild upsetter a shot there in American Code. I liked his move last time, his late rally. On to the 8th. Lots of speed in this mile turf race, at least the way I read the PPs. Non-winners of 3 claiming fillies. Take out all 4 of the also eligibles. Everybody else goes. You know, there's a lot of speed in here. You and I both looked for a mare that can lay close, but it doesn't look like Ella the Ball absolutely has to be, you know, up there on the engine. But she is not going to get too far back early.
It's interesting we both picked her since, you know, to me, a recent form might suggest you should go a different direction. But we were both thinking the same way. She has been showing speed, admittedly, but on dirt. In her turf races, she's actually rates much kinder. And I love the workout on May 10th, 47 and 4. So I think Jade has her going really well, dropping out of 2 other than company into a claiming race. And when a horse hasn't raced on turf in a while, but they have tried 4 times they've tried to get on the turf, and it's just been very unfortunate. It keeps getting rained off. And to me, that's very encouraging. And I really liked the maiden special weight win at Churchill, and they went right into stakes company with her as a younger filly. So turf may be her thing. If she will rate, which I think she will, then we might be able to get a $10, $12 winner here.
Yeah, and I love the matchup with Diego. He's really good at judging what's happening. He can go to the front if need be, but you know, if this mare is able to sit and finish like she did a couple of years ago on grass, Iram is a really good rider to fit that type of filly, and he's a really good finisher. Cinnamon Face is intriguing to me. Sean Davis has some speed. I see we both have Cinnamon Face as a second pick. I mean, she's logical in here. Gets the rail, has some speed. On to the 9th. A mile on the main track. Non-winners of 2 allowance. This is a nice race as well. I'm really looking forward to today's activities. Scratch the 3 Special Stormy, the 4 Mo Winning, and the 7 Sarah's Shaman. I'm mixing it up a little bit here in race number 9. I got a 6-1 shot on the morning line.
Yeah, this is one of those races I could just say buyer figures don't help a lot. And a lot of horses running in the mid-high 70s and maybe even a low 80. I picked my brother Keith. You know, my concern is that his last race was so much better, at least on the figures, than he's been able to run in the past. That's a little bit of a concern. However, he didn't have a perfect trip when he ran second to Big Bernie. Big Bernie came to Lone Star Park and ran a very impressive race. I love that. When I was reading a book on handicapping way back when I was a young man, they discussed the Z pattern and how great it is to see. And you don't see it often, but my brother Keith, that's a textbook. Back and neck, falls back to fourth, and then rallies again for second. You know, the 4 horses that have come back, 2 have won, not just Big Bernie, but I think the 5th place finisher also out of that same race came back to win. Draws inside. I'm hoping Asmussen training this horse, there won't be much of a bounce, but I do think he'll be a square price like I think every horse in this race.
Yeah, the thing about him, he's come back and worked 3 times since that high buyer race against Big Bernie. And let's face it, on his day, Big Bernie is pretty nice. I mean, he's gone, long expanses of time without winning, but, when he does put it together, he's good. And he was very good here that might have been a little bit of a fluky race that Big Bernie ran when he came back. This could have a little fluke element to it, or it could just be that he's rounding into form, and I like the fact he's worked since. Those work patterns catch my eye. But that being said, I'm going to take a shot with Aztec Fire, number 9, claimed for $40K by Ronnie Cravens out of a closing weekend race at Hot Springs, where he kind of ran out of his skin. He put up a 76 buyer at 7-10 in that race, had a stalking trip, drew off. Race before that, a high-level maiden claimer, put up an 83 against Nyquick and Nullify. Nullify came back to win a $100,000 maiden claimer for Lucas. Nyquick is a Brad Cox. I'm just going to try to strike while the iron's hot with Aztec Fire. Hope that Oaklawn form translates. He's a 3-year-old taking on some older horses. Hopefully that'll help him get a little bit of a price. And then Unload is my second pick, Steve's other horse in here. They may have trouble catching him. I mean, I would think that he'd be out there, winging pretty good. So just in case they can't catch him, I used him second.
Yeah, and he had a mud track race last time out, so that, his fast track races, he's been impossible to beat to the front. In the mud, going a mile and an eighth, that probably wasn't his game anyway. He's a gun runner. There's a lot to like with Unload.
Yeah. How about Frankie Dettori rode this horse 2 races back at Turfway? Was that that must have been like a big multi-stakes day for Frankie Dettori to ride this horse on
I
March
bet it
23rd.
was too, yes. It had to be.
10th and final. I mean, I doubt Frankie Dettori visits Turfway unless it is a big stakes day.
I'd agree.
10th and final. This will be contested after the Preakness. We'll have the Preakness prior to this race. Mile on the Lawn, non-winners of 3 claimers. Scratch the 1, Take Action, who I thought had a bit of a shot in here. Scratch the 7, Optimal Trip, who I think has a big chance in a race tomorrow. And scratch the 12, Pure Malice, and the 14, A Roller Coaster Ride. That means Prodigious Bay will make his turf debut for Asmussen, gets in. So does Spitesville for C.R. Trout, our first C.R. Trout sighting of the meet.
Yeah, and boy, is that how we're pronouncing that?
Embuite, I believe. It's a ballet move. Not that I'm a connoisseur of the ballet, but embuite, I believe, is that move where you leap up and their feet are together, I think.
Yeah, I'll just call him the 2. So, but anyway, this horse has been terrific at Gulfstream Park. Hasn't raced since January, but obviously has the top figures. A really game victory last time out again at Gulfstream Park. The runner-up did come back to win. Ran the exact same buyer figure, so that 79 is probably rock solid. But that's probably going to be fast enough. Jade Gellner does an outstanding job. His horses are training, very well. So I think if he can duplicate that performance, at Gulfstream, then he's probably going to win. If you're going to bet against him, you would say he had a great trainer in Florida, changing barns, changing states, so there is some vulnerability with this favorite, I think.
I think a vulnerability, too, and it's a philosophical thing for me. I don't have data to prove it, but I don't like horses that – this was a voided claim by the vet back in January. So like that horse we talked about earlier, Burning Hunk of Love, that turned out well because Broberg got to keep the horse, and he's gotten very good. Embuite was claimed out of his last start. Now, it was back in January. Obviously, there was something amiss with him physically. He goes to the shelf. Now he comes back. He's changed barns. He's changed parts of the country. Can definitely run on the turf. I just have a hard time picking a voided claim off a layoff. I just don't think I mean, voided claims can be for a lot of reasons. It doesn't mean that the horse was staggering around. I mean, it could just be something slight. But I'm going to try to beat him, just despite the fact that I really respect him on overall form. He should win this race. But I'm going to go with Singing Dixie, number 6. I worry that there won't be enough pace in this race for him to close into. His last race was super. He circled the field very, very wide, got past everybody but Country Caper. I thought his last race was excellent. Now he gets back in against claimers. He ran some lousy races, to be honest with you, at Sam Houston. But I'm going to give him a shot that he seemed to like this course last time. He does have a previous race over the course last summer where he was well up the track, but that was an allowance race.
How about the lengths behind? Does that look right? Only 2, 5, 4, 5, and then 2. I mean, I don't know.
I watched the race back, but I was more looking at where he was on the racetrack. Ninth, 2.5 back at that first call does seem a little unusual.
It's possible. It just looks
but it's hard for him to stack up that wide at the clubhouse turn.
Sure.
But I didn't actually go back and look at that. You might assume that he was about 5.5 back all the way around until he circled in late. That might be something we want to look at. But, he was off the pace and wide. It's a little bit of a reach, no doubt. I'm going to give him a shot. Castellanos pops up and wins with horses you don't always expect. I'm going to give him a shot to beat Mbuite just in case the big horse maybe is not quite, Brother Reed is another deep closer that he's not a win machine, but, he can finish. So I got him third. Big Wave James is interesting, too, because I didn't originally like him, but after these scratches, he's got some early speed potentially. Didn't show it last time.
Yeah, the public liked him last time.
Yeah,
he was bet down to 2-1 at this exact same condition, and he was only beating 2 lanes.
Yeah, just kind of ran around
lackluster.
But, he didn't show his usual speed.
Yeah, they switched
good
to
swimmer
Stuart
ran
Elliott.
a nice race then.
Yeah, and Elliott gets the call now. I assume because Wethy preferred to ride the Gellner horse. I'd assume that's probably what happened there. But and then we got a pretty good super high five carryover for those that want to bet this race.
Yeah, I think is it 13,780. Don't quote me on that, but it's a nice.
Yeah, it's a nice.
It's a nice carryover. 11,380. Okay, thank you, John. 11,380. So I added a couple of $1,000.
You're trying to enhance the handle.
Exactly, but I can't supplement that extra 2,000 out of my own pocket. So, that's an interesting race. Mbuite might be the horse that I pass on like I passed on Just a Sip in the last race yesterday, but coming off a layoff. But she was impressive. Maybe this Irish horse will be impressive as well. Should be a good day.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good day. And, again, we got the Preakness later in the card, so enjoy your time here. It's just a beautiful day.
And tomorrow, bring a can of Pepsi, get in free, and you get a free large Pepsi when you come in as well on the Sunday discount day. Thanks a lot for being with us today, and enjoy the races.